Hey Patreon friends, Mick Sullivan here. Thank you for your support as always. I hope you enjoyed the most recent episode about telescopes. That was fun to put together, and I'm really excited about the episode that I'm currently working on. I had an idea that was related to a current event and history, so I wanted to try making a video for you and share it with you. As you might imagine, I get really excited when important people from the past show up again today. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but there was a sculpture that mysteriously popped up in a Portland, Oregon park back in February. I'd like to share a bit about it because it is so remarkable. In Mount Tabor Park, a gigantic bust of the man known as York was installed without anyone knowing when or how it was done. Obviously, it took a team of people to do it, but the artist who created it has remained anonymous, wishing to keep the conversation about York. I'm going to share some video of the park that my friend Meg Samples took for me and sent to share. So, take a look. You get a sense of the scale of how big it is. And imagine that just popping up in the middle of the night and walking into the park and seeing this brand new gigantic sculpture of York. Now, if you don't know, York was the enslaved man who traveled with the Lewis and Clark expedition, which you might know is something I'm very interested in. York had been enslaved all of his life to the Clark family and was a manservant or a body servant. So this means he traveled everywhere that William Clark went. He had no choice in the matter. In fact, they both spent their youth in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. And actually, the very first home that I remember living in as a little kid was less than a block from a park that was on the Clark property. Today it's called George Rogers Clark Park in honor of William's older brother, but it was originally known, when the family lived there, as Mulberry Hill. In fact, there's a tree, as you can see here, that dates back to the time, most likely, that the two men were walking around this plot of land. So William Clark and York and all the people that lived there would have coexisted with this tree. It's believed to be the oldest tree in the city of Louisville, and they protected it by this gate. York's life of enslavement wasn't typical of many of the enslaved. He was not a laborer, and despite living near the city, he was also not forced into commercial employment either. Instead, he spent most of his days in the company of William Clark, and he traveled with William when Clark was in the army, and while Clark was on surveying jobs, or when Clark traveled with the Corps of Discovery on the Great Expedition that we know as the Lewis and Clark Expedition. Now, while on the journey with Lewis and Clark, York experienced more freedom and opportunities than he would have at home. He worked, he hunted, he explored alongside the others of the expedition, and when a vote was taken to decide where to make camp on the Pacific coast, he was counted equally. Also, Sacagawea was counted among those votes. Many of the Native Americans they encountered along the trek were particularly fascinated with York. Having never seen someone like him, they assumed he had great power. And in a way, that's true. His power extends today, though historians are still trying to piece together his story. As was the case with many people in York's situation, there was very little preserved from his life. He left behind no writings, and there are no images from his time to give us an idea of what he looked like. In his old age, William Clark told the author Washington Irving that York was given his freedom many years after the expedition. Now, in reality, York had made the request several times before that, and each time Clark refused. Little is known about what became of York after he gained his freedom. Some people believe that he ran a freight hauling business in his original home, here where I'm coming to you from in Louisville, Kentucky. Some people believe he moved to Tennessee, and there's even a legend that he returned to the West and lived with the Mandan people that he had met in the winter of 1805. But no one is certain. I like to think that part of his mystery is what makes him powerful today. It's easy to let York capture imagination, as this artist has done for the public in Portland. Now, the first statue of York was made by Ed Hamilton in 2003 and stands near the river in Louisville. Ed, whom I've met several times, spent years working on this incredible work, and it's one of my favorite pieces of public art. Like Ed's, this new surprise statue in Portland is also a guess as to what York looked like. Despite the mystery, the fact that his story is once again a current event is exciting and a great opportunity for more people to learn more about York. Also, it looks like the surprise Portland York statue is going to stay, which is a remarkable decision on the part of the city, to say the least. Now, if you'd like to learn more about York, I'm going to post a couple articles in the comments. I'm not sure how that's going to work on Patreon, but hopefully I'll be able to tag them on there. There's a Smithsonian article that's actually about the statue, the sculpture, the surprise bust, and then there's actually kind of an overview from the National Park Service, which would be a nice springboard if you were looking to learn more about York. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and I hope you stay tuned in. I appreciate your support, and I wish you all a great month. Thanks.